Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Steven Universe Retrospectives. And today we're going to be discussing episodes 31 and 32 of Steven Universe, Keep Beach City Weird and Fusion Cuisine. Keep Beach City Weird is an annoying episode, and it all has to do with the character that it mostly focuses on, Ronaldo. Now, before we get to that, let's talk about the premise of the episode. In this case, the episode actually begins with Steven playing a game of Steven Tag between himself, Garnet, and Amethyst. The gimmick of the game is that if Steven tags you, you have to turn into him, which is a perfect game for a group of shapeshifters. Steven tries to get Pearl to play, but she's not interested, and so the game prematurely ends with Garnet essentially body slamming Amethyst into the beach, leaving a Steven-shaped crater. As such, Steven just jaunts off to sing about how he's not good at the game, despite the fact that he created it, and he happens to run into Ronaldo on the beach as he's investigating these weird holes that are in the side of the cliff that the temple is on. As such, Steven wants to know more about what's going on, and Ronaldo says that he's investigating it for the sake of his blog, Keep Beach City Weird, wherein he documents all the strange and mysterious things around Beach City. Steven, of course, is naturally curious about this, and so Ronaldo decides to let him in, much to the chagrin of his younger brother Petey, who unfortunately has to cover for Ronaldo at the Fry Shack. As such, Ronaldo ends up showing Steven around Beach City and all these weird and strange things around, including these weird red rocks that are in a small little crater in the town, as well as these pink flowers that are on a dumpster. As they continue, and as Steven and Ronaldo continue investigating, so Ronaldo brings Steven to his home base, which is really the lighthouse on the cliff overhead over the Gem's temple. And inside, Ronaldo shows Steven his board of conspiracies or whatever, and as he says that what he believes is the source of all the weirdness in Beach City, snake people. Yeah, that's what he thinks. He thinks it's essentially the classic lizard man conspiracy, that the snake people are running the government and that they're pitting everyone against each other so they don't know the truth or some bullcrap like that. And Steven being Steven, he buys it hook, line, and sinker to the point where when he gets home, he tells Amethyst and Pearl that they have to snake-proof the house. When they ask for an explanation, Steven does point out all the stuff that he and Ronaldo have been investigating, and the gems provide reasonable explanations for all of them. Of a sort. Essentially, all of these are byproducts of the things that the gems have been doing throughout the series. The holes in the cliffside are those drill monsters that they fought in the episode where Garnet got obsessed with Meat Beat Mania. The red chunks are the pieces of the red eye that the group destroyed in the second episode. And those flowers are the flowers from Rose's moss that Steven and Lars and the cool kids had to deal with in that episode. Pretty much every strange thing in Beach City is tied back to the gems. When Steven realizes this, he quickly realizes he has to break the news to Ronaldo, who is right outside the house trying to get a plaster of the crater that Amethyst formed. Steven, of course, ends up trying to tell Ronaldo that all of this are byproducts of everything they've been investigating are byproducts of the gems and all the things they've done, and he doesn't believe it until the plaster comes out and he realizes it looks like Steven. As such, the wind gets blown out of Ronaldo's sails as he realizes how wrong he was, and as a result of this, he ends up shutting down the blog because he's so depressed. As such, Steven decides that he wants to try and make Ronaldo feel better, so he intentionally dresses himself up as a snake person to intentionally provoke Ronaldo into believing that he was right and getting his luster back. This prompts Ronaldo to knock Steven out with a potato and bring him back to his lab to essentially investigate him. Which is, kind of freaking creepy. It's actually kind of nuts how obsessed he is with this, and it's clear that he's not doing this for altruistic reasons. However, the interrogation ends up coming to a halt when the gems end up tracking Steven down to this home base because, well, Ronaldo kidnapped their kid, and they are mighty pissed by it. As such, Ronaldo tries to fight the gems, thinking they're other snake people in humanoid disguises, and to say he gets his ass kicked. It's actually hilarious how one-sided of a fight it is. However, in the struggling, Steven managed to get out of his bonds, and he couldn't tell Ronaldo what he was because Ronaldo taped his mouth shut. But Steven manages to get out. But like I said, when Steven gets out of his binds, he manages to get out of his costume and thus out of the built impromptu gag that Ronaldo made. As such, Steven ends up telling Ronaldo, "Look, it was me again. I just wanted to make you feel better." And the wind is once again taken out of Ronaldo's sails as he realizes that he really did not understand it. And then in the end, it really was as simple as the gems were responsible, which does make him feel bad. However, Petey, who was there in the room the whole time, he was filming the whole thing, ends up going to Ronaldo's, conspiracy board and gathers it up and tries to put Ronaldo onto another conspiracy, saying that it's all tied together with an 8th level civilization or whatever. Ronaldo first brushes it off until he comes up with a new conspiracy. Rock people! That it's part of a great diamond authority, that they're here to hollow out the planet, and that they are planning to, and that they come to us in humanoid form, etc. Now he's going to put it all on his blog, so. Yeah, the wind gets thrown back into his sails. He's excited again. Steven, Petey, and the gems end up leaving the lighthouse. Steven asks if it was a good thing that he's like this, but Petey says it's alright, he's happy, and the episode ends with Ronaldo cheering to the heavens that he's got the conspiracy again, so. There you go. Now, before we get to talking about that episode and what I thought, and of course, we should get through the regular tradition and talk about the plot of the next episode, in this case, Fusion Cuisine. In this episode, Steven ends up meeting Connie's parents. Of a sort. In this case, Connie's been hanging out at Steven's more often, and she's been using his house to watch this drama called Under the Knife, which Connie's parents don't let her watch because, her mother's a doctor, and she feels that the medical drama is not an accurate description of how things go in the medical field. As such, they're getting ready. As such, Steven and Connie end up watching the show together and enjoying it, but during one watching, Connie's mom calls and wants to know how Connie's doing. Connie says she's fine, but unfortunately her mother wants to talk to Steven's mom. And since Steven's mother is non-existent, they end up going to one of the gems, in this case Garnet, who hilariously ends up flubbing it by delivering this deadpan excuse about how the kids are playing with swords, how they're hurt, they're bleeding, don't call again. It's hilarious. It's actually really funny. However, this experience has prompted Connie's parents to want to meet Steven's parents, as they're now a bit worried considering that little interaction. And as a result of this, Connie's a bit worried about them actually meeting, because she told her parents that Steven's family was a nuclear family. Two parents, one or more kids. And as a result of this, that means that Connie's parents don't know that Steven's essentially raised by the gems and has 3 guardians, while his dad lives in a van in the city. As such, Steven is a bit worried that this is essentially not true, but Connie assures him that they have to keep up the lie or else they won't be able to see each other. As such, Steven tries to figure out which of the gems to bring with, but unfortunately each of them all have their own character flaws that wouldn't exactly make them an ideal, dinner meetup compatriot. In the case of Garnet, she may be strong and stoic, but she's not a conversationalist. In the case of Amethyst, she's fun and peppy, but she's also very gross. In the case of Pearl, she's very calm, considerate, and definitely more in the know, but she doesn't eat, because gems are not humans, and thus while they can eat, they don't need to, and Pearl finds the whole process disgusting, so she wouldn't be really good for dinner. As such, Steven has really no idea what to do, but he thinks until he finds a kind of crazy solution. They should all go together as one big fusion. Something the gems aren't exactly okay for, but Steven does lay the guilt trip on something fierce, and they realize, shit, we have no choice here, don't we? And so, they end up going to dinner fused as a giant woman by the name of Alexandrite, which when I first saw this episode, I did not think was a real stone, but it was. You win this round, Steven Universe creators, but you will slip up, and when you do, I'll be there. However, Alexandrite goes to the dinner with Greg and Steven, and for some reason Connie's parents do not bat an eye at the giant multi-armed woman with weird green hair and multicolored clothes on. They just roll with it. I do not know what they've seen in their lives to make them think that was normal, but whatever. At the very least, it's a world with gem monsters and the ocean got pulled up. At this point, nothing is really that surprising anymore, is it? As such, they begin asking more personal questions about how Alexandrite and Greg met, what her job is, etc. And of course, Steven keeps thinking up dumbass excuses that they met on a roller coaster, that that Alexandrite's works at an apple farm, etc. And Connie's just getting more and more embarrassed to the point where she asks Steven to step aside and chews him out for bringing all 3 gems together. Steven thinks that, they're my family, I wanted to bring them here. But as he and Connie continue having this little mini argument, Steven notices that she's still wearing her glasses, even though he healed her a few episodes back. At which point Steven begins thinking that maybe Connie's ashamed of him, but Connie just kind of brushes aside and says that they should just try and make it through the evening. And so Steven does comply, though reluctantly. However, the facade ends up falling apart when dinner is brought, and unfortunately when Alexandrite tries to take a bite of shrimp, she doesn't exactly budge. And ultimately this causes a clash with the individual gems that make her up, as Pearl does not want to eat the food, Amethyst is all for it, Garnet is trying to keep them in order, and ultimately everything just kind of they come falling apart quite literally as Alexandrite unfuses back into Pearl, Amethyst, and Garnet after Steven tells them they don't have to eat the food. As a result of this, the Maheshwarns are obviously go, what the hell is this? And when they see everyone fighting, things going crazy, all the weirdness, it does lead to things almost blowing up with Connie's mom chewing out saying, I knew I should have trusted my bad feelings about this new friend of yours, and Connie, in sadness, ends up running off with Steven chasing after, and they end up running to a bus stop, with Connie explaining that the reason she didn't tell her parents about Steven and his family is because they think that maybe Steven was weird, and if as a result of this, they might not be able to hang out anymore. Steven, of course, does not want that either, but he doesn't really know what to do, and so Connie has the brilliant idea of her and Steven just running away and starting a life somewhere else. And Steven's all in agreement with this, and as a result, they get on a bus, end up going off, but they don't really get down the road too much before they hear loud stomps chasing after them and see Alexandrite chasing after the bus, grabbing it and telling Steven and Connie to get out of there right now. As a result, the next scene has Connie and Steven being chewed out by their respective guardians, and as punishment for what happened, Steven ends up losing his TV privileges. After Garnet threatens to cut off his food supply for 1,000 years. Although Steven is upset that he loses TV privilege as well, because he still wanted to see the mid-whatever finale of Under the Knife, but ultimately the Gems and Greg end up shooting his concerns down by saying, we're doing this because we love you, and the Maheshwarns are so impressed with the show of discipline, and that they realize, we think maybe, we think you are we do think you guys are respectable guardians for Steven, and we think we can trust you with our daughter. And so the episode ends with them saying, okay, fine, we'll let Connie and Steven hang out, with Steven going to give Connie a hug, her blushing like a tomato, and then Connie's father going in and separating them because he's her father and no boy is good enough for her. So, alright, let's first get into my thoughts on Keep Beach City weird and why I think it's annoying. And as I said, a big part of it is Ronaldo. Now, in this episode's defense, Ronaldo is meant to be this annoying, believe it or not. Even in universe, Ronaldo's theories are bull hockey. He over-exaggerates, he's egotistical, he's narcissistic, and he really just keeps thinking that things can't be so simple, that the world is not as black and white as it looks, which in a way it is, but he's looking at it in the sense of there's conspiracies everywhere, we're being lied to, and I'm the only one who knows the truth. And as a result of this, it really kind of makes him look like an idiot. Now, the thing is with Ronaldo, this was done on purpose. They intentionally made Ronaldo annoying to essentially kind of, because there are people like that in the world. People who really do believe they're the centers of attention, and that the rest of us just don't see things the way they do, and that we need to listen to them. There's a subtle political commentary in there, but I'm not going to get into that because I don't talk politics on this vlogs. But with that being said, these factors also do not make him a very likable character. Because, unfortunately, he's a guy who always has to be at the center of the universe. He's a guy who is not happy unless all eyes are on him, says the guy who does a vlog every Friday that he hopes people watches. But essentially, he really is just a narcissist. And the thing is, he cannot stand the fact if he has to be the one people turn to. He's got to be the great secret warrior who ends up that everybody looks to as the one for guidance, who really knows what's going on and all that bull crap. But the thing is, because of this mindset, when he is proven wrong, when he is ultimately shown that things are not as complex as he thinks they are, it breaks him. And this does not make you feel sorry for him. It just more emphasizes how much of a narcissist he is. Keep in mind, like, if you were a true investigative reporter, you would follow where the clues lead you. Instead of jumping, like, and in Ronaldo's defense, he just jumped to, okay, actually, you know what, screw that. He's not in his defense. He jumped to conclusions. He believed it was snake people. Now, let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say that this was just a working theory. It wasn't, but let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's pretend that this was a working theory. If Ronaldo really was interested in discovering the secrets of Beach City, he would have continued following the clues, and when his ultimate hypothesis was proven wrong, he could have instead gone in that direction. Unfortunately, because of his narcissism, he has to believe that everything is what he thinks it is, that he's the only one that can see it. And if that's ever disproven or it's shown to be wrong, well, it breaks him. And like any true narcissist, he either will double down or just immediately start throwing a pity party. Guess which one he does? Guess what? Spoilers, it's both. When the instant he realizes that he was wrong about the snake people, he tries shutting down his blog. When it looks like he's almost proven right, he goes balls to the walls insane, kidnaps Steven, and even when Petey calls him out on this, he says, "Don't you realize what's going on? Something important is finally happening to me!" And therein lies the root of what's wrong with his character. He's a guy in his own little world. He has to believe that this stuff is real. He has to believe that he's the only one that's in on the secret. That the rest of us are just idiots. And that if he keeps going, eventually his life will get interesting. Essentially, he's like all those nerds who are unsatisfied with their lives and hope that they can live in their fantasy world. Which, admittedly, I was one of those nerds, I won't deny. But but when you actually have a character who can't separate fantasy from reality, it gets to the point where you kind of stop liking them when that's their most prominent character feat. Now, to be fair, there is some humor in the character, believe it or not. When he's not the main focus of an episode, there is some humor to be found with him in the show. And it can be found in Schadenfreude. Specifically, when Ronaldo is getting his ass kicked. I'm not lying when I say the funniest scene in the Keep Beach City Weird episode was when the Gems went to go save Steven, and Ronaldo tries to fight them. It's hilarious. He gets his ass handed to him, and he just got all this boisterousness to him, and he's like, "I'll show you," and then boom, gets punched in the face, tries to land a punch, Pearl just blocks it, he hurts his hand, and as he's on the ground in pain, Garda just throws a barrel on him. It's hilarious and kind of cathartic, considering just how annoying the guy was throughout the rest of the episode. It makes it hilarious. As a result, so there are other episodes where Ronaldo suffers, and yes, it's hilarious. Sometimes you feel a little bit sorry for him, but most of the time it's hilarious. Now that doesn't mean to be fair, there is at least one episode where he's the center of attention that I do genuinely think is funny. I'll talk about that episode when I get to it, but as it stands, though, the only bit of humor that can be found with Ronaldo in this episode is when he gets his ass kicked. Otherwise, the rest of the episode really does not make him endearing. They talk about how these conspiracies are all he has and makes him happy, and they try to make you feel like, oh, at least he's happy and that's what counts, except the problem is, he's annoying. And when he keeps trying to push his dumbass theories on everyone, it just keeps getting annoying, and it honestly is not fun. It does not make for an entertaining viewer. It's good when he's kind of in the background, or there's like a quick little side gig that shows him in his stupid paranoia doing something weird and it coming back to bite him in the ass. But when you have an entire episode focused on him and his continuous attitude of, "I'm the chosen hero, I'm the only one that sees the truth," it gets annoying really quickly, It's not funny, it's not entertaining, and ultimately, by the end of the episode, you're just like, get this guy out of here. By the end of the episode, when he's just cheering, you're just like, yeah, that's a thing. Let's just leave. And that's essentially what happens as he's just reveling in his new conspiracy about the Diamond Authority, which, if you see the rest of the series, that hits a little harder. The creators are trolls. Essentially, it would everybody just ends up walking away. It's like, yeah, he's happy. Let's just leave. So even the characters in the show realize that he's annoying, which, again, in the defense of the show, that's what his character was meant to be. But in just that when you have episodes focused on said annoying character, well, let's just say the creators did their jobs a bit too well, and as a result, instead of the episode being good, I would say that it's just as annoying as the character it's focusing on. So, yeah, I did not care for the episode. It's not technically bad, but unfortunately, I think the creators are too good at their jobs with Ronaldo. So that's one thing down. But then on the other side we have Fusion Cuisine. In this case, this episode is once again another Connie Steven episode. And in this case, it does well in furthering their relationship, as well as kind of bringing Connie further into, well, Steven's world, so to speak. Like, that's actually one of the things that I do like about her episodes in a way. Just kind of seeing her be drawn more and more into Steven and his life. In this case, it also it helps it not only introduces her parents, but it helps address kind of more of where a wall that was in her and Steven's relationship. In this case, her parents. Just as Connie said, she did not tell her parents the truth because she genuinely believed that if her parents learned about all the weird stuff that happens around Steven, they would not want Connie hanging out with him. And as a result, she constructed a falsehood that Steven had only two parents, that he lived with them, and that everything was fine. And you can see that and the thing is, to keep up that falsehood, she intentionally tries hiding facts about the gems from her parents. Case in point, with her glasses. Despite the fact that Steven healed her eyes back when he discovered he had healing powers, well, she didn't just ditch the glasses. She just popped out the lenses and put them back on. And the thing is, her parents never noticed this. Basically, I mean, if you do to look close enough, you'll realize that her glasses don't have lenses. But the thing is, throughout the episode, it's clear that she lives another life with her parents. And it's as early, and you can see it as early as her phone call with her mom. While she's hanging out with Steven, she seems like a completely different person, more loose, more fun, definitely more acting like a kid. However, the instant she realizes, when she hears her mom calling, she just kind of assumes a stance, sits down, pulls her glasses over, and starts acting more formal, saying, "Hello, mother." It's clear that she's she believes her parents just would not be as accepting of all this, and it's clear that she's trying to keep up a facade with them because she most likely fears how they would act. And ultimately, she keeps furthering that facade, but her continuing that facade does not actually make anything better. It instead just makes things worse. Steven feels like that she's ashamed of him and his family, that in order for him to be a part of her life, he has to lie about his, which, yeah, ultimately does damage their relationship, something fierce. And as a result of this, when the truth does eventually come out, Connie is so ashamed of what she did, she runs off and Steven chases after. By the end, however, it's when the truth does come out and they end up doing something stupid that both sides that Steven and Connie's relationship ends up getting better. In this case, the Maheshwarans end up seeing that the gems, despite them not being the family that Connie said they were, are responsible family members, and they do genuinely care enough about Steven that they're not just going to let him do whatever the hell he wants, so to speak. As when he and Connie made the smart decision to run away. I actually do like that. That's like, despite the fact that Steven and Connie may not be your typical kids, they do make a stupid kid decision like that. They actually do respect that they chew them out and properly punish them. They even giving proper responses. And as such, while they do clearly have some slight apprehension still, at the end of the day, they do believe that Steven is in the hands of responsible people, and thus there's nothing wrong with Connie still spending time with Steven, and thus with his family. But like I said, it's clear that there's still some slight apprehension, as when Steven goes to hug Connie, her dad comes in and separates them. Which, fair enough. Again, this is technically the first time that Connie's parents met Steven, so they still have to get to know him before they officially before they say, okay, we're all good. So I do like that, and again, we also get to see a taste of Connie's parents as characters. There's not a lot here, but there is enough to build a slight foundation. We see that her mother is more serious-minded and more grounded, which is where you can see Connie's more studious side coming in, but at the same time, her dad just kind of feels like a chill dude that kind of just acts pretty normal. Again, it's still weird that her parents do not react at all to any of the weird magical shit that the gems pull. Seriously, they do not bat an eye at the giant woman who walks in, or that she unfuses into 3 other different multicolored women. They're just like, what's going on here? Like, lady, guy, you saw something fantastical. React more! Don't treat this like this is a normal everyday thing. I mean, maybe in the world of Steven Universe it is. There is a long and storied history with that, which we'll get into in other episodes. But react to be more than just mild surprise. It's weird, and it's just kind of a common thing in Steven Universe. I can kind of buy it and for the denizens of Beach City, since that's where the gems live, but they don't live in Beach City. So why are they not reacting? It's weird. I don't like it. It's strange, and it confuses me. At the same time, but again, let's water under the bridge with the end of the episode. If you can just accept that this is all just that they just kind of treat this all as normal, at the end it can still be something entertaining and amusing. Especially when by the end it does lead to something sweet and nice with the gems ultimately being accepted by Connie's parents and thinking that Steven by extension is trustworthy. So, like that, I do like that. On top of that, we also get, once again, see another fusion in Alexandrite. Her design looks pretty cool. It definitely looks like a mishmash of all 3 gems brought together. The 6 multi-arms are great. The fact that she's bigger definitely showcases more of a definitely makes her look more imposing, especially with how her glasses look, which definitely as they're more pointed and so forth. I especially like how her voice definitely sounds like it's straining to be quiet when she talks, and she has 2 mouths, one that looks more draconic. We'll see more how that works in a later episode. And again, it just definitely looks like a giant mishmash, but though in a way that definitely makes her look intimidating. Now, we don't get to see a lot of her in action in this episode since she's supposed to be playing the role of Steven's mom, but it's still a start, and we do see her in later episodes, so yeah, at least for her introduction, I think she's alright, definitely, but later appearances do her more justice. Otherwise, the episode itself is still good. Sets up more stuff with Steven and Connie's relationship, introduces her parents, introduces a new fusion. Overall, still a good episode, so yeah, overall, keep Beach City weird, maybe intentionally annoying, but I think it does its job too well. Fusion Cuisine is a fun episode and furthers along Steven and Connie's relationship, and ultimately has some sweet moments while also laying the groundwork for future stuff. So, yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and I'll see you next week. Take care. Pupper.